For today's demonstration, I'm going to be showing you how to repair mistakes in brioche knitting. I have my brioche cowl here that I've been working on, and I have dropped a stitch. So before I panic and not know what to do, I'm going to take my crochet hook that I have here and place it into the dropped stitch. That will keep it from moving further down into this area here. The first step will be to put caps on the tips of my needles to keep my other stitches from falling off while I'm fixing my dropped stitch. I'm going to take my needles and give them a little pull apart so I can see my rows of yarn that go between my two needles. Fixing brioche mistakes are a little bit more complicated than regular knitting. So if you look at the anatomy of brioche, is you have coming between your rows this little buddy, what I call a buddy, and each one of your yarn overs and knit stitches have a buddy. So this stitch right here has this buddy going behind it in the light colored yarn. So in order to make sure that when I pick up my stitches, I maintain this pattern that's going up here, I need to do a couple of different steps. The first one is with my crochet hook. I need to make sure I go over the top of my buddy. I go under the next light colored yarn and the next one. I'm going to be picking up my dark colored green, which is the next yarn in order, with my crochet hook. I'm going to be pulling it underneath the two light colored yarns and through my stitch right here. The next thing I'm going to be doing is repeating that step. I'm going to be going over this yarn, which is the buddy that goes with my dark yarn. I'm going to be going underneath the next one, underneath the next light colored yarn, and picking up the sequential dark yarn that is the next one up. I'll be pulling it under those two light colored yarns and through. Okay, so now I've picked up two. The next part of this is a little more complicated because we have this yarn over that is right here that came from up here on our brioche stitch. So what I'm going to be doing is going underneath, or going over the top of the buddy, underneath, picking up the green, dark green, pulling it through, whoops, and then the last step will be to take this yarn over and removing the cap off my needle. We need to orient our dark yarn stitch with the yarn over so that we can continue with our brioche pattern. If you look that I have my stitch that's going to be ready to be slipped. So I'll be slipping it and then continuing with my brioche knitting. This will be the same way to fix a mistake. So if you have a mistake in your brioche, the best way for you is to work it down until you get to the mistake. You can unknit in brioche. What makes it a little more complicated is that you have to remember which color yarn you are using to unknit with. And when you get to the end of your round, you need to change your color that you're going to unknit with. So for instance, let me move over here. And I'm going to do some unknitting in brioche. I'm going to be unknitting this knit stitch. And then I have a yarn over. This is my slipped stitch that I did in my brioche pattern. I'll be unknitting this knit stitch, removing my yarn over, slipping my stitch, bringing my yarn back so I can unknit this knit stitch, removing my yarn over, and slipping. When I get over to the beginning of my round, which I have here with my marker, I will be dropping my green, my dark yarn, and if I need to get back around to where my mistake is, I may need to be picking up this yarn, which makes it very confusing if you start trying to take out your mistake with the wrong color yarn. And that creates a whole nother ball of issues. So it's very important for you, if you're going to be doing unknitting in brioche, that you remember the color of yarn that you are unknitting with, and when you get to the end of your round, that you remember to trade yarns. I hope that makes sense. Give it a try. Practice fixing those mistakes in brioche, because it's a little more complicated than your basic knitting stitches. So good luck. I hope you enjoy brioche as much as I have.